Emmanuel Acho says that Lamar Jackson is out of excuses after signing his record-breaking $260 million contract. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing the NFL content and sports content as much as possible. Let's jump right into this one because on Emmanuel Acho's show, he brought up Lamar Jackson. And before I get into anything about Emmanuel Acho, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Emmanuel Acho because he is exactly what people imagine when they think about sports media. And what is that? Garbage takes that get other people talking. That's what he does. He hates on Justin Herbert. He hates on a lot of people. But he does it well enough to the point where guys like me end up talking about it. So you know what? Bravo. I have to talk about it because it's so ridiculous, this statement, that we need to just break it down. Because, you know, obviously I see where he's coming from. This is not a take that I'm looking at like, how did you get there? Because a lot of times people come out with takes and it's like, this makes no sense. Like, I'm not going to talk about that. But there is merit to this because Lamar Jackson has received criticism and he has received blame. And he's not 100% not at fault. Which means that there is some bit of things that maybe he could have done better. Again, I'm not trying to blame things on him, but when you ever look at any superstar quarterback, really any quarterback, even when things go wrong, it's not their fault directly. They're not the main reason. But there's always something where it's like, maybe you could have made that one throw. So, you know, there's always fault, you know, with a loss with anybody. Right? You know, not just, you know, the quarterback, but like maybe the running back didn't have a great game, but he's not going to get blamed in the post. Oh man, he only averaged 3 yards a carry. He got blamed. No, that's not how it works. But Lamar Jackson has received, you know, criticism. He did not play well in that Los Angeles Chargers, San Diego Chargers playoff game in his rookie year. He played solid. I think he played all right in that Tennessee Titans game. He put up 500 yards in the postseason, but ended up taking the loss. I think that was more Greg Roman. The next year, ends up beating the Titans, going up against the Buffalo Bills and losing to the Bills after he got a concussion. And he threw a pick six, then he got a concussion later in the game, and it was like, okay. And then he hasn't finished the last 2 seasons. So this idea that he has no more excuses, I want to know what the excuses have been recently, right? I think the biggest one, I don't think it's an excuse. I think it is an explanation, is that Greg Roman has not been good. I think that's the biggest explanation. I think many of the explanations that have been used are absolutely off the table. And that's where I see Emmanuel Acho, where he is coming from. You know, I'm not trying to say this came out blindly, because the excuses that have been made, doesn't have a receiving core, doesn't have the offensive coordinator that can actually elevate his game, right? Those are the biggest 2 things that has, you know, Ravens fans and Lamar Jackson defenders, I would call them truthers, have been bringing up. The Ravens receiving core is the best they've ever had. Maybe in their franchise history, but definitely underneath Lamar Jackson. And then you look at the coaching. I think Todd Monken is absolutely an upgrade over Greg Roman. But to act like now there's no possible reason where Lamar Jackson couldn't succeed and that, oh, you know what, if it doesn't happen, that's on him, that's getting a little bit ridiculous, because if you think about it, anything can happen. I went into last season looking at the Baltimore Ravens wide receiver core, and I'll point it out with this pencil that I'm holding, and I was like, let's look at these wide receivers. Bateman, Demarcus Robinson, Duvernay's going to take a step, maybe we see some Prochet, a lot of different possibilities, right? Injury to Bateman. Duvernay struggles a little bit, but he, you know, plays decent as a number 3. Demarcus Robinson kind of struggles. And then Lamar gets hurt, and everyone blames the receiving core, and it's like, oh, they're struggling. It's like, well, we didn't have Bateman. We didn't have some of these assets. But injuries happen. If Mark Andrews goes down, knocking on wood, if Mark Andrews goes down, like the Ravens, that's going to hurt the offense drastically. If the Ravens defense starts struggling, right? Because, you know, maybe they don't have a cornerback too. Maybe Rock Yesson doesn't turn into the guy they were hoping for. Or you're looking at the offensive, you know, weapons and it's like, okay, maybe Todd Monken isn't the right guy and maybe he struggles mightily. We don't know. There are so many things that can happen out of control of players, teams, coaches, just random things can happen. And to say, you can't say before something happens that there's no excuse if it fails. Because I don't necessarily think excuses exist unless someone is directly at fault, and I think it's more of scapegoats rather than excuses. Because what it really is it's explanations and it's reasoning. It is the logical analysis of why something went wrong. NASA doesn't look at a failed mission, or an engineering group doesn't look at a failed engineering design and go, here's the excuse as to why that doesn't work. No. It's the explanation. This doesn't work because it was calibrated improperly. That's not an excuse. That is an explanation of why it didn't work. Now, if you said, John, you were supposed to calibrate it properly, what happened? And he goes, I did calibrate it. I used the computer software. That is the number that they gave me. Okay, then the computer software is probably messed up, unless he's lying. Or if he says, I gave it off to Tim. Tim was supposed to do it. Okay, that's an excuse. Why? Because he was, I can't remember the original guy's name, John or whatever. You were actually the guy at fault. Lamar Jackson right now is being asked to win the Ravens a Super Bowl, or at least contend, or get to the AFC Championship game. If that doesn't happen, there are a plethora of reasons as to why it wouldn't. There are a great amount of reasons as to why it could. Lamar Jackson could have a bad season and win the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson could have a great season and not win the Super Bowl. Right? That's really how it works. It's not something that you can just look at and be like, oh yeah, no matter what happens, this is what we need to look at and say, this is why. So Emmanuel, Acho, I see where you're coming from. The Ravens have lost the excuses or the reasons they've used in previous seasons, but that doesn't mean that there's no excuse. It just means that the recent reasons for failure are gone, and so that should bode for more excitement, hope, belief in the team and what they're going to be able to do this year. Let me know in the comment section down below your guys' thoughts on this. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for more NFL content, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.